Bang, 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 bang. 4 shots echoed through the rain-soaked Seoul alley, each one tearing through the night like thunder. Sarah Chen's body jerked with each impact, her thin frame absorbing bullets meant for someone else. Blood bloomed across her worn jacket as she collapsed onto the wet pavement, rain mixing with crimson in swirling patterns beneath the flickering streetlight. Min-jun Park caught her as she fell, his hands instantly soaked red, his scream cutting through the downpour like a knife. "No, no, 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 why did you do that?" His voice cracked, breaking into something primal and desperate. The gunman's car was already screeching away, taillights disappearing into the Seoul night like demons retreating into darkness. Sarah's eyes fluttered, her lips moving but no sound coming out. Min-jun pressed his hands against her chest, trying to stop the bleeding, but there was so much blood, too much blood, it kept coming and coming. "Stay with me, please stay with me." He was 19 years old, the son of the most feared crime lord in Seoul, and he had never felt more powerless in his entire life. Sarah's hand reached up, trembling, and touched his face. Her fingers were cold, so cold. "Everyone," she whispered, blood on her lips, "deserves a chance to live." Her hand fell, her eyes closed, and Min-jun screamed again, louder this time, a sound that would haunt him for the rest of his life. But this story didn't start with 4 bullets in a rainy alley. It started 72 hours earlier, with 2 people from completely different worlds whose paths should never have crossed. Sarah Chen woke up to the sound of trash trucks rumbling past at 5 in the morning. Her back ached from sleeping on cardboard behind the GS25 convenience store, the same spot she'd claimed 3 months ago when the old homeless man who used to sleep there died of pneumonia. She was 42 years old, but her face looked older, etched with lines that spoke of harder years than her age suggested. Her dark hair, streaked with premature gray, was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wore 3 layers of clothing even though it was June, because you never knew when you'd need the extra warmth. And besides, it was everything she owned. She rolled up her cardboard carefully, storing it behind the dumpster, where the store manager wouldn't find it. Mr. Kim tolerated her presence as long as she didn't make a mess and didn't bother customers. It was more than most store owners would allow. Sarah had learned to be invisible, to take up as little space as possible in a world that had decided she didn't deserve any space at all. The public bathroom in the subway station opened at 5:30. Sarah was always there right when the attendant unlocked the door, before the morning rush when women in business suits would give her disgusted looks and cover their noses as if poverty were contagious. She washed her face with hand soap, scrubbing until her skin was raw and pink. She brushed her teeth with a toothbrush she'd found, still in its package, in a trash can outside a dental office. She wet her hair and combed it with her fingers until it looked almost presentable. Looking in the mirror, she practiced smiling. "Good morning. Yes, I'm very interested in the position. I have 15 years of experience in business management." The smile felt foreign on her face, like wearing someone else's skin. The woman in the mirror looked tired, desperate, exactly the kind of person no one wanted to hire. 3 years ago, Sarah had been the co-owner of a successful import-export business. She'd had a corner office, a company car, a beautiful apartment in Gangnam. She'd had a husband, a daughter, a life that made sense. Then her business partner had disappeared with all the company's money, leaving her holding the debt. $2 million of debt. The creditors had taken everything, her business, her apartment, her car, her savings. Her husband had filed for divorce before the ink on the bankruptcy papers was dry, taking their daughter Jenny with him. "I don't want her to see you like this," he'd said, as if Sarah's financial ruin were a moral failing, a disease Jenny might catch. Jenny had been 16 then, at that age where a mother's love feels like suffocation and a mother's failure feels like betrayal. She'd looked at Sarah with something worse than hatred. She'd looked at her with shame. Sarah hadn't seen her daughter in 3 years, hadn't heard her voice, hadn't been allowed to explain that she'd tried, that she'd fought, that she'd done everything she could to save what they'd built. In Jenny's eyes, Sarah had simply failed, and that failure had cost them everything. Now Sarah collected cans for recycling money. On a good day, she made enough for a meal at the soup kitchen and maybe a coffee from the convenience store. On bad days, she went hungry. She'd learned that hunger was something you could get used to, just like cold, just like loneliness, just like shame. She left the subway bathroom and started her morning route, checking trash cans for bottles and cans. The early morning streets of Seoul were beautiful in a way she'd never noticed when she'd had somewhere to be. The sun was just starting to rise, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Street cleaners moved like ghosts through the empty streets. Delivery trucks unloaded fresh vegetables at restaurant back doors. The city was waking up, and Sarah was invisible in its awakening, just another shadow nobody saw. By 8 in the morning, she had a plastic bag half full of recyclables. She sat down on a bench in a small park, allowing herself a moment of rest. An elderly homeless man shuffled past, pushing a cart loaded with his possessions. His name was Mr. Choi, and he'd been on the streets for 15 years. He had no teeth left and his hands shook from withdrawal, but he'd shown Sarah which alleys were safe and which subway cars the police didn't check. "Morning, Sarah," he wheezed, his voice like gravel. "Morning, Mr. Choi, did you eat?" Found half a kimbap outside the 7-Eleven. He grinned his toothless grin. "Good day so far." Sarah reached into her bag and pulled out a can of coffee she'd been saving. "Here, you need it more than me." "You're too soft," Mr. Choi said, but he took the coffee, his shaking hands struggling with the pull tab. Sarah opened it for him. He drank it in 3 long gulps, then sighed with satisfaction. "You know what your problem is, Sarah. You still think you're gonna get your old life back. You gotta let that go. This is your life now." "I know," Sarah said quietly. "No, you don't. You still wash your face every morning like you got a job interview. You still keep your clothes clean. You're still trying." He shook his head. 3 years from now, you'll stop trying. That's when you become one of us for real." He shuffled away with his cart, leaving Sarah alone with that thought. Was he right? Was she still fighting a battle that was already lost? She looked down at her hands, once manicured and soft, now calloused and scarred. When had she last painted her nails? When had she last cared? Her old cell phone buzzed in her pocket. She'd managed to keep it somehow, charging it at the library when she went there to use the bathroom and pretend to read magazines. The screen was cracked. The battery barely held a charge, but it still worked. The notification made her heart stop. It was a message request on Facebook from Jenny. Sarah's hand started shaking worse than Mr. Choi's. She almost dropped the phone. For 3 years there had been nothing. No calls, no messages, no birthday wishes. Radio silence that felt like death. And now, suddenly this. "Mom, I found you through a missing persons group on Facebook. I know it's been a long time. Can we talk, please?" Sarah read the message 5 times, 10 times, 20 times. Each word felt like a small miracle and a huge terror. Jenny wanted to talk. Her daughter wanted to talk. But what would Sarah say? How could she explain 3 years of failure? How could she let Jenny see her like this, homeless and broken and ashamed? She started typing a response a dozen times and deleted it each time. "I miss you so much" sounded desperate. "I'm sorry" sounded weak. "I love you" felt like a lie when love hadn't been enough to keep them together. Finally, she just closed the app. She'd respond later, when she had something to say, when she had something to offer besides apologies and explanations. The day passed the way all her days passed. She collected more cans. She tried to avoid the groups of high school students who sometimes threw things at homeless people for entertainment. She sat in the library for 2 hours, soaking in the air conditioning and the blessed normalcy of being surrounded by books. She bought a triangle kimbap from a convenience store for lunch, eating it slowly to make it last. By 6 in the evening, she was back at her spot behind the GS25, arranging her cardboard for the night. That's when she first saw him. He was young, maybe 19 or 20, wearing expensive clothes that hung on him like he didn't quite know how to wear them. Designer jeans, a black button-down shirt, shoes that probably cost more than Sarah had made in her last month of collecting cans. But it wasn't his clothes that caught her attention. It was his face. He looked haunted, like someone running from ghosts only he could see. He bought 3 cups of instant ramyun from the convenience store, along with a bottle of soju and a pack of cigarettes. When he came out, he hesitated, looking at Sarah. Their eyes met for just a second, and Sarah saw something in his expression she recognized. It was the same look she saw in her own reflection. It was the look of someone who didn't know where they belonged. "Excuse me," he said, his voice quiet. "Are you hungry?" Sarah's first instinct was to say no. Pride was one of the few things she had left, but her stomach was growling and the smell of the ramyun was making her dizzy with hunger. "I'm okay," she said anyway. He sat down on the curb a few feet away from her, dumping hot water into the cups. "I bought too much. I can't eat all 3. It'd be a waste." He pushed one of the cups toward her. "Please." It was the please that got her. Not the food, but the politeness, the way he'd asked as if he needed her to take it more than she needed to receive it. Sarah picked up the cup, and the warmth of it in her hands felt like a gift from God. They ate in silence for a while. The ramyun was cheap, the kind that cost 900 won at any convenience store, but it tasted like heaven. Sarah hadn't had a hot meal in 3 days. "I'm Min-jun," he said finally. "Sarah, that's a Western name." "My mother was Korean, but she loved American movies. She named me after Sarah Connor from Terminator." Sarah smiled at the memory. "She said I needed a strong name because the world is hard on women." Was she right? Yeah, she was right. Min-jun lit a cigarette, his hands shaking slightly. "Can I ask you something? How did you end up out here?" Most people didn't ask. Most people didn't want to know. They preferred to think that homelessness was something that happened to other people, people who'd made bad choices, people who deserved it somehow. But Min-jun asked like he actually wanted to understand. "I had a business," Sarah said. "I worked my whole life to build it. Then my partner stole everything and disappeared, left me with all the debt. I lost everything trying to pay it back. My husband left, my daughter," her voice caught. "My daughter was ashamed of me, and I don't blame her. I was ashamed of me too." "That's not your fault." "Doesn't matter whose fault it is, I'm still here." Sarah looked at him. "What about you? You don't look like you belong out here either." Min-jun laughed, but it was a bitter sound. "My father thinks he knows what my life should be. He's planned every step, what I'll study, what I'll do, who I'll become, and I can't breathe in that plan. So sometimes I come out here to places where no one knows who I am and I pretend I'm someone else." "Who does your father want you to be?" "Him." Min-jun took a long drag on his cigarette. "He wants me to be exactly like him, but I'm not him. I don't want to be him. I want—" He trailed off, looking embarrassed. "You want what?" "I want to make music. I want to write songs and play piano and maybe make something beautiful instead of—" He stopped himself. "Never mind, it's stupid." "It's not stupid." Sarah's voice was firm. "Dreams aren't stupid. Giving up on them is what's stupid. Look at me. I gave up. I let the world tell me I wasn't worth anything and I believed it. Don't be like me." Min-jun looked at her with something like wonder. "You're not worthless." "Then why am I here?" "Because bad things happen to you. That's not the same as being worthless." He stubbed out his cigarette. "My father says weakness is the only sin, that the world belongs to the strong and everyone else deserves what they get. But I don't believe that. I can't believe that. Because if that's true, then what's the point of anything?" They sat together in comfortable silence after that, finishing their ramyun as the Seoul night deepened around them. Neon signs flickered to life. Salarymen stumbled out of bars. Couples walked hand in hand. The city moved on, indifferent to 2 people sitting on a curb behind a convenience store. When Min-jun stood to leave, he pulled out his wallet. Sarah tensed, ready to refuse charity. But he didn't offer money. Instead, he took out a business card and wrote a number on the back. "This is my cell phone. If you need anything at all, call me, okay?" Sarah took the card, not because she'd ever use it, but because refusing would hurt his feelings. "Okay. I mean it, food, a safe place for the night, anything." "Why?" Sarah asked. "Why do you care?" Min-jun thought about that for a moment. "Because you're the first person I've talked to in months who doesn't want something from me. You just listen, like I'm a real person, not just my father's son." He smiled sadly. "Thank you for that." He walked away, and Sarah watched him go. This strange, sad boy who bought ramyun for homeless women and dreamed of making music. She looked at the business card in her hand, then tucked it carefully into her pocket. She didn't know it yet, but that card would save her life. That became their routine. Every few nights, Min-jun would show up at the GS25 around dinner time. Always with food, always with cigarettes, always with that haunted look in his eyes, and they would sit and eat and talk about everything and nothing. Sarah learned that Min-jun's mother had died when he was 12, that his father had raised him in a world of violence and money and power that Min-jun wanted no part of, that he'd been accepted to Seoul Music Academy, but his father had forbidden him to go, that he felt like he was drowning slowly in a life that wasn't his. Min-jun learned that Sarah had once been fluent in 3 languages, that she traveled to 20 countries for business, that she dreamed of her daughter going to college, getting married, having the kind of stable, happy life Sarah had thought she'd built, that her daughter's silence hurt worse than any of the physical hardships of homelessness. "Have you tried calling her?" Min-jun asked one night. "She messaged me on Facebook a few days ago." Sarah stared at her ramyun. "I haven't responded." "Why not?" "Because what do I say? Sorry I ruined your life. Sorry I'm a failure." She's 20 now, Min-jun. She's in university, she's building her own life. What do I have to offer her except disappointment? "You're her mother." "I was her mother. Now I'm just the woman who used to be her mother." Sarah's voice cracked. "You don't understand. When you lose everything, you lose the right to the people who loved you. They move on. They have to move on. And the kindest thing you can do is let them." Min-jun was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "My mom used to tell me that love doesn't have conditions. She said real love stays even when everything else is gone. Maybe your daughter is trying to tell you that. Or maybe she just wants closure. Then give her that. Give her the chance to decide what she wants. Don't decide for her." Sarah knew he was right, but knowing and doing were different things. Every time she opened Facebook to respond to Jenny's message, her fingers froze. What could she possibly say that would make any of this okay? 2 weeks passed. Summer heat settled over Seoul like a wet blanket, and sleeping on cardboard became even more miserable. Sarah developed a cough that wouldn't go away. Mr. Choi told her it was just a matter of time before it turned into pneumonia, the way it did for everyone out here eventually. "You should go to a shelter," Min-jun said when he heard her coughing. "Shelters fill up by 4 in the afternoon, and some of them are worse than the streets." "Then let me get you a motel room, just for a few nights until the cough goes away." "No, Sarah." I said no. Her voice was sharp. "I appreciate what you're doing, I really do, but I'm not your charity case. I'm not your project. This is my life and I'm handling it the best I can." Min-jun looked hurt and Sarah immediately felt guilty. He was just trying to help. But she'd learned that accepting help came with invisible strings, expectations she couldn't meet. It was easier to refuse. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "That was rude. You've been kind to me, kinder than you needed to be, but I have to do this my own way." "Your way is killing you." "Then that's my choice to make." They didn't talk much that night. Min-jun left earlier than usual, and Sarah wondered if she'd finally pushed him away. Part of her hoped she had. It would be easier if he stopped coming around, stopped making her remember what it felt like to talk to someone who saw her as human. But 3 days later, he was back. This time he brought something different. Not food, but a small bag from a pharmacy. Inside was cough medicine, antibiotics, pain relievers, vitamin C packets. "You don't have to take them," he said, "but they're here if you want them." Sarah's eyes burned with tears she refused to shed. "Thank you." "And this?" He handed her something else, a cheap smartphone still in its box. "It's prepaid for 6 months. I already programmed my number in," and he hesitated. "I programmed your daughter's number too, from the Facebook message." Sarah's hands shook as she took the phone. "Min-jun, I can't accept." "Yes, you can, please, just think about calling her, that's all I ask." That night, alone behind the convenience store, Sarah charged the phone and stared at Jenny's number for 3 hours. Her thumb hovered over the call button 100 times, but she never pressed it. What would she say? How would she explain 3 years of silence? Instead, she typed out a message. "Hi Jenny, it's Mom. I got your Facebook message. I'm sorry it took me so long to respond. I think about you every day. I love you. I understand if you don't want to talk to me, but I'm here if you do." She hit send before she could change her mind, then immediately regretted it. What if Jenny had changed her mind? What if the message had been a moment of weakness that passed? What if Sarah's response opened old wounds that had finally started to heal? The phone buzzed 30 seconds later. "Mom, oh my God, Mom, I've been so worried. Where are you? Are you okay? Please tell me you're okay." Sarah started crying, really crying for the first time in months. Her daughter was worried about her. Her daughter still cared. The phone buzzed again and again as messages poured in. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I abandoned you. I was young and stupid and scared, and I'm so sorry. Dad told me you didn't want to see me, but I never believed him. I've been looking for you for a year. Please call me, please. I need to hear your voice." Sarah's hands shook so badly she could barely type. "I'm okay. I'm safe, I need some time. I'm not ready to talk yet, but soon, I promise soon." Okay. Just please don't disappear again, please." "I won't, I promise I won't." Sarah clutched the phone to her chest and cried until she had no tears left. Jenny had been looking for her. For a whole year, her daughter had been looking for her. All this time, Sarah had been telling herself that Jenny was better off without her, that staying away was an act of love. But it wasn't love, it was fear. Fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of letting Jenny see how far she'd fallen. The next time Min-jun came by, Sarah hugged him. He seemed surprised but hugged her back. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for the phone. I talked to my daughter." "Yeah. She doesn't hate me. I thought she hated me, but she doesn't." Min-jun smiled, and it was the first genuine smile she'd seen from him. "Of course she doesn't. She's your daughter." They sat down with their usual ramyun, and for the first time in 3 years, Sarah felt something like hope stirring in her chest. Maybe things could get better. Maybe she could find a way back to some kind of life. Maybe it wasn't too late. "I have news too," Min-jun said. "I'm leaving." Sarah's heart sank. Leaving? "I'm going to music school. I applied in secret and I got in. I start in 3 days." "Min-jun, that's wonderful," your father agreed. His expression darkened. "No, I'm doing it anyway. I told him yesterday that I'm leaving, that I'm not going to be what he wants me to be, that I'm going to live my own life." He laughed without humor. "He told me if I walk out that door, I'm no son of his. No protection, no money, no family. So I'm walking out that door." "Are you scared?" "Terrified. But I'm more scared of what happens if I stay, if I let him turn me into him." Min-jun looked at her with those sad, haunted eyes. "You taught me that. You taught me that it's better to lose everything trying to be yourself than to have everything and lose who you are." "I didn't teach you that. I'm not exactly a success story." "Yes, you are. You lost everything and you're still here. You're still fighting. You're still trying to be a good mother to your daughter even when you think you failed her. That's not failure, Sarah. That's strength." Sarah didn't know what to say to that. She'd never thought of her survival as strength. It had always felt like weakness, like she was too stubborn or too stupid to give up even when giving up was the logical choice. "When do you leave?" she asked finally. "Day after tomorrow. I'm staying with a friend until school starts, but I wanted to see you first, to say goodbye, and to give you this." He handed her an envelope. Inside was more money than Sarah had seen in 3 years. 50,000 won bills stacked thick. "Min-jun, I can't." "Yes, you can. Use it to get a motel room. Use it to buy new clothes for a job interview. Use it to take your daughter to dinner. Use it however you want, but please, please use it. You've given me so much these past few weeks. Let me give you something back." Sarah wanted to refuse. Pride demanded she refuse. But she looked at the money and thought about Jenny, about being able to call her daughter and say, "Let's meet for coffee," instead of "I'm not ready yet." "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, thank you." They sat together for hours that night, talking about everything they'd never gotten to say. Min-jun told her about his mother, how she played piano and how that's where his love of music came from. Sarah told him about her business, about the trips to China and Japan and Thailand, about the thrill of closing a big deal. "I miss it," Sarah admitted. "Not the money, really, but the feeling of being competent, of being good at something, of mattering." "You matter," Min-jun said fiercely. "You matter to your daughter, you matter to me. Don't ever think you don't matter." As the night grew late and Min-jun stood to leave, Sarah stood too and hugged him again. "You're going to be amazing," she said. "You're going to make beautiful music and you're going to be happy. I know it. I hope so. And you're going to call your daughter and you're going to figure things out. I know it." He walked away into the Seoul night, and Sarah watched him go with a strange mixture of happiness and sadness. She'd only known him a few weeks, but he'd given her something precious. The reminder that she was still human, still capable of connection, still worth someone's time and kindness. She didn't know that in 48 hours, she'd give him something even more precious, her life. The next 2 days passed in a blur. Sarah used some of Min-jun's money to get a motel room for 3 nights. She took a real shower with hot water, washing away weeks of street grime. She washed her clothes in the motel sink and hung them to dry. She slept in a real bed, and it felt like heaven. She called Jenny. "Mom," Jenny's voice cracked with emotion. "Is it really you?" "It's really me, baby." They talked for 3 hours. Jenny cried. Sarah cried. They said all the things they should have said 3 years ago. Jenny told her about university, about her boyfriend, about how angry she'd been at their father for keeping them apart. Sarah apologized 1,000 times, and Jenny apologized 1,000 times back. "I want to see you," Jenny said. "Can I see you?" Sarah looked around the cheap motel room, looked at her worn clothes drying on the bathroom rack, looked at herself in the mirror, gaunt and tired and so much older than she should be. "Soon," she promised. "Let me get myself together a little more and then we'll meet. Okay, I need a little more time." "Okay, Mom, but not too long, please, not too long." "Not too long, I promise." After they hung up, Sarah sat on the motel bed and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Possibility. Maybe she could do this. Maybe she could use Min-jun's money to buy interview clothes, to get a cheap room somewhere, to claw her way back to something resembling a normal life. Maybe it wasn't too late. She decided to go see Min-jun one more time, to thank him properly now that she'd actually talked to Jenny, to tell him that his push had changed everything. That decision saved his life and cost her 4 bullets. It was raining when Sarah made her way back to the GS25. Not a light rain, but a downpour, the kind that soaked through clothes in seconds. She didn't mind. The rain felt cleansing, like it was washing away the last 3 years and giving her a fresh start. She saw Min-jun standing outside the convenience store, collar turned up against the rain. He looked different somehow, lighter, like a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. "Min-jun," she called out. He turned and smiled when he saw her. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" "I wanted to thank you. I talked to my daughter, really talked to her for hours, and it was everything. Thank you for pushing me." "I'm so glad." He looked genuinely happy. "See, I told you she didn't hate you." They stood there grinning at each other like idiots while rain poured down around them. Then, Sarah noticed the backpack on Min-jun's shoulders. "You're leaving tonight." "Yeah, I couldn't stay in that house another minute. My friend's expecting me." His expression turned serious. "I'm scared, Sarah. What if I'm making a huge mistake?" "You're not, you're choosing yourself. That's never a mistake." 3 black cars turned onto the street. Sarah noticed them first. Something about the way they moved, slow and predatory, made the hair on the back of her neck stand up. She'd lived on the streets long enough to recognize danger, and these cars screamed danger. They pulled up in front of the convenience store. Doors opened. Men got out, and even in the rain, Sarah could see the guns. "Min-jun," she said quietly, "run." "What?" "Run." But it was too late. The men were already moving, spreading out to cut off escape routes. There were 5 of them dressed in black, faces hard and cold. One of them raised his gun, a pistol with a silencer, pointing it directly at Min-jun's back. Sarah didn't think. Thinking would have made her hesitate, and hesitation would have gotten Min-jun killed. She just moved, launching herself forward with every ounce of strength she had. "Min-jun, DOWN." She crashed into him, shoving him aside just as the first shot fired. The bullet hit her left shoulder, spinning her around. Pain exploded through her body, white-hot and all-consuming. But she stayed on her feet, kept her body between Min-jun and the gunmen. The second shot hit her chest. She felt her ribs crack, felt something vital tear inside her. Her knees buckled, but she didn't fall. Not yet. She had to keep standing, had to keep protecting him. The third shot hit her abdomen. This one folded her in half, drove the air from her lungs. Blood filled her mouth, hot and metallic. The world started to gray at the edges. The fourth shot hit her chest again, and this time she did fall. Her legs simply stopped working, and she collapsed onto the wet pavement. The last thing she saw was Min-jun's face above her, twisted in horror and grief. The last thing she heard was sirens. The last thing she felt was rain on her face, washing away the blood. And the last thing she thought was, "Jenny, I'm sorry, I promised not too long." Then darkness took her, soft and complete. Min-jun caught Sarah as she fell, his hands slipping in her blood, her weight suddenly too much for his arms. She crumpled against him like a broken doll, her eyes rolling back, blood pouring from 4 different wounds. The gunmen were already running, their cars screeching away, but Min-jun didn't care about them. All he cared about was the woman dying in his arms. "No, no, no, no." He pressed his hands against her chest, trying to stop the bleeding, but there was too much blood. It soaked through his clothes, warm and slick. "Stay with me. Sarah, stay with me." Her eyes fluttered open for just a moment. She tried to speak, but only blood came out. Her hand reached up, shaking, and touched his face. Her fingers were cold. "Everyone," the word was barely a whisper, "deserves a chance to live." Her hand fell, her eyes closed. Her chest stopped moving. "Sarah," Min-jun screamed her name, screamed it again and again until his throat was raw. He shook her, trying to wake her up, but she was limp and unresponsive. "Please, please wake up. You can't die, you can't." The convenience store owner burst out of the store, his face pale with shock. "I called ambulance. They coming." "She's not breathing, she's not breathing." Min-jun tilted her head back, remembering CPR from a class he'd taken years ago. He locked his hands together and pressed down on her chest. Once, twice, 3 times. Blood bubbled from her mouth. He didn't care, he kept going. "Come on, Sarah, come on. Don't you dare die. Your daughter needs you. Jenny needs you." Compressions, breathe, compressions, breathe. His arms burned. His lungs ached. Rain poured down, mixing with blood, mixing with tears. "Why did you do that?" he sobbed between compressions. Why did you save me? You should have run. You should have saved yourself. But he knew why. Because that's who Sarah was. A woman who'd lost everything but hadn't lost her humanity. A woman who'd been beaten down by life but still had the capacity to sacrifice herself for someone else. A woman who was better than all of them combined. Sirens finally cut through the rain, and seconds later, paramedics were pushing Min-jun aside, taking over. They worked with efficient speed, hooking up IVs, pressing bandages against her wounds, loading her onto a stretcher. Is she alive? Min-jun grabbed one of the paramedics. Tell me she's alive. Barely, we need to go now. They loaded her into the ambulance, and Min-jun tried to climb in after her, but they pushed him back. Family only. I'm all she has, please. They must have seen something in his face because they let him in. He sat in the corner, watching them work on Sarah, watching machines beep and monitors flash. One of the paramedics kept pressing on her chest, doing compressions even as they raced toward the hospital. We're losing her, one of them shouted. No, Min-jun lunged forward, but someone held him back. You can't let her die. She saved me. She saved my life. Then let us do our job. The ambulance screeched to a halt at Seoul National University Hospital. They yanked open the doors and rushed Sarah inside, wheeling her stretcher at a dead run. Min-jun ran after them, his shoes squeaking on the polished floor, leaving bloody footprints. Someone stop him! Nurse yelled. Two security guards grabbed Min-jun, holding him back as they wheeled Sarah through double doors marked "Authorized Personnel Only." He fought them, struggling to follow her, but they were too strong. She needs me, let me go. Sir, you need to calm down. I can't calm down. She's dying because of me. They wrestled him into a waiting room chair. One of the guards stayed with him while the other went to get a nurse. Min-jun put his head in his hands, and only then did he realize he was completely covered in blood. His hands, his arms, his clothes, all soaked red with Sarah's blood. He'd never seen so much blood. A nurse appeared with a clipboard. Sir, I need information about the patient. What's her name? Sarah Chen. Age? I don't know, 40-something. Insurance information. She doesn't have insurance, she's homeless, but I'll pay for everything, whatever it costs. The nurse's expression softened. Okay, we'll worry about that later. Do you know how to contact her family? Min-jun fumbled for his phone with shaking hands. Her daughter, Jenny, she needs to know. But he realized he didn't have Jenny's number. Sarah did on the phone he'd given her. The phone that was probably still in her pocket, soaked in blood. I can't. It's okay, we'll figure it out. The nurse put a hand on his shoulder. Let's get you cleaned up first. No, I need to stay here in case she wakes up. Sir, please, his voice cracked. Please let me stay. The nurse looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, but let me at least get you a blanket. You're in shock. She brought him a blanket and a cup of tea he didn't drink. Min-jun sat in that waiting room chair, staring at the doors Sarah had disappeared through, and tried to process what had just happened. 20 minutes ago, he'd been saying goodbye to a friend. Now that friend was fighting for her life because she'd saved his. This was his fault. If he'd never befriended Sarah, if he'd never involved her in his life, she'd be safe right now. She'd be in her motel room, talking to her daughter, planning their reunion. Instead, she was on an operating table with 4 bullets in her body. His phone rang, his father. Min-jun, where are you? Hospital. There was a pause. Are you hurt? No, but someone else is, because of me, because of what you are. Another pause, longer this time. The Choi gang. They tried to kill me. Someone else took the bullets. Who? A friend, a good person, better than either of us. Min-jun's voice was hollow. She might die and it's your fault. Min-jun. I hate you, I hate what you do. I hate what you've made me, and I'm done. Do you hear me? I'm done." He hung up before his father could respond. Let the old man figure out what that meant. Min-jun didn't care anymore. All he cared about was the woman on the other side of those doors. Hours passed. Nurses came and went but wouldn't tell him anything. The sun came up, painting the waiting room in shades of gray. Min-jun didn't move. He couldn't. Moving felt like giving up, like accepting that Sarah might not come back. Around 8 in the morning, the double doors finally opened. A surgeon walked out, still in her scrubs, pulling off her mask. She looked exhausted. Min-jun jumped to his feet. "Sarah Chen, is she?" "Alive, barely." The surgeon sat down heavily in a chair. 4 gunshot wounds. 1 shattered her shoulder. 2 perforated her chest cavity, collapsing both lungs. The 4th caused severe internal bleeding. We spent 6 hours in surgery repairing the damage. "But she's going to be okay." The surgeon's expression was grave. "She's stable for now, but the next 48 hours are critical. She lost a lot of blood. There's risk of infection, organ failure, any number of complications, and even if she pulls through," she paused. "The damage to her shoulder is permanent. She'll never have full mobility in that arm again. She's going to need extensive rehabilitation. Months of it, maybe years. But she'll live. If she makes it through the next 2 days, yes, she'll live." Min-jun's legs gave out and he sat down hard. "Can I see her?" "Not yet. She's in the ICU. No visitors except immediate family. I'm all she is right now." "I'm sorry, hospital policy." "Please." Min-jun looked up at the surgeon with desperate eyes. "She saved my life. She took 4 bullets meant for me. I need to be there when she wakes up. I need her to know she didn't die for nothing." The surgeon studied him for a long moment, then sighed. 10 minutes. That's all I can give you." She led him through the double doors, down a hallway that smelled of antiseptic and fear, into the ICU. Sarah was in the corner bed, surrounded by machines. An IV dripped clear fluid into her arm. A ventilator breathed for her, her chest rising and falling with mechanical precision. Bandages covered most of her upper body, already stained with seepage. She looked so small in that hospital bed, smaller than she'd ever looked on the streets. Fragile, like she might break if he touched her. Min-jun pulled a chair up to her bedside and took her hand carefully, avoiding the IV. Her skin was cold. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. "This is all my fault. You should hate me. You should wish you'd never met me, but you saved me anyway, and I don't know how to carry that. I don't know how to be worth what you paid." Her hand didn't move. The machines beeped steadily, counting out the seconds of her life. "Your daughter needs to know you're here. I'm going to find her, I promise. And when you wake up, she's going to be here waiting for you. You're going to get that reunion you were scared of. You're going to get your second chance." A nurse appeared in the doorway. "Time's up." Min-jun squeezed Sarah's hand gently. "I'll be back. I'll find Jenny. I'll make this right, I swear." He left the ICU and went straight to the hospital chapel. He wasn't religious, hadn't been to church since his mother's funeral, but he didn't know where else to go. He sat in the empty chapel and cried, really cried, for the first time since he was 12 years old. Then he pulled himself together and started making calls. First, the police. He gave them a full statement about the attack, identified the Choi gang, told them everything. They said they'd increase security at the hospital, that they'd post guards. Min-jun didn't trust it would be enough, so he made a second call. To his father's head of security. "I need protection for someone at Seoul National University Hospital. Room 304, ICU. Her name is Sarah Chen. If anything happens to her, if anyone even looks at her wrong, there will be consequences." "Your father..." "I don't care what my father says. This is non-negotiable. Are we clear?" A pause. "Clear." Third call was harder. He went to the hospital's social services office and explained the situation. Sarah had a phone with Jenny's contact information, but that phone was probably in evidence with the police. He needed to find Jenny another way. The social worker was sympathetic but bound by privacy laws. I can't just give out patient contact information. Then you contact her. Look up Sarah Chen, find her daughter Jenny, and tell her that her mother is here and needs her. Please. Sarah's been homeless for 3 years and her daughter's been looking for her. They just reconnected. You can't let that connection die now. Something in his desperation must have gotten through because the social worker nodded. I'll see what I can do. Min-jun spent the rest of the day in the waiting room, leaving only to use the bathroom or to sneak into the ICU when the nurses weren't looking. Sarah's condition didn't change. The machines kept beeping. Her chest kept rising and falling with mechanical precision, but she didn't wake up. He was dozing in his chair around 8 that evening when someone shook his shoulder. "Excuse me, are you Min-jun?" He opened his eyes to see a young woman standing over him. She was in her early 20s with Sarah's eyes and Sarah's cheekbones. She'd been crying, her face blotchy and swollen. "Jenny." The social worker called me. She said my mom was here, that she was hurt. What happened? Why is she? Jenny's voice broke. Why is she in the ICU? Min-jun stood and told her everything. About meeting Sarah behind the convenience store, about their friendship, about the attack, about Sarah throwing herself in front of the bullets meant for him. Jenny listened with her hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "She saved you," Jenny whispered when he finished. "She almost died saving you." "I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. If I'd never—" "Stop." Jenny's voice was firm despite the tears. "My mom makes her own choices. If she chose to save you, then that's her choice. Don't take that away from her by making it about your guilt." She was wise, this young woman. Sarah would be proud. "Can I see her?" Jenny asked. "Family only, but I think that rule's about to be broken." They went to the ICU together. When Jenny saw her mother, she made a sound like something was being ripped out of her chest. She rushed to the bedside, taking Sarah's hand. Mom, it's me. It's Jenny, I'm here, I'm right here." No response except the steady beep of machines. "I'm so sorry I waited. I'm sorry I let 3 years pass. I was angry and stupid and I wasted so much time we could have had together." Jenny was sobbing now, her words coming in gasps. "But you can't leave me. Not now. Not when we just found each other again. Please, Mom, please wake up." Min-jun stood in the doorway, watching this reunion he'd made possible, and felt something shift in his chest. Sarah had given him a gift tonight. Not just his life, though that was precious enough. She'd given him purpose. She'd shown him what it meant to sacrifice yourself for something bigger than your own survival. And now he was going to give her a gift back. He pulled out his phone and made one more call, to his father. "What is it, Min-jun?" "I need you to come to Seoul National University Hospital, room 304, ICU." "Why would I do that?" "Because someone saved your son's life tonight, and you need to see what real courage looks like." He hung up before his father could argue. Mr. Park arrived an hour later with his entire security detail. The hospital staff tried to stop them, but you didn't say no to Mr. Park. He swept into the ICU like he owned it, his expression cold and hard. But when he saw Sarah in that hospital bed, surrounded by machines and bandages, something flickered across his face. "This is the woman?" he asked quietly. "Yes." "She's homeless?" "Yes." "And she took 4 bullets meant for you?" "Yes." Mr. Park walked to the bedside, studying Sarah's face. Jenny glared at him, protective of her mother even unconscious. Min-jun's father reached out and touched the edge of Sarah's blanket, almost reverently. "Tell me what happened, everything." So Min-jun told the story again. Every detail from their first meeting to the moment the bullets hit. His father listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable. When Min-jun finished, Mr. Park was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I've spent 30 years building an empire. I've commanded thousands of men. I've made millions of dollars. I've had politicians in my pocket and enemies at my feet. And in all that time, I've never met anyone with real courage. Until tonight. He turned to face Min-jun. This woman had nothing, nothing at all, and she gave her life for you, not for money, not for power, not because she owed you anything. She did it because it was right. His voice cracked slightly. I've never done anything because it was right. Dad, I'm turning myself in. The room went silent except for the beeping machines. What? Min-jun stared at his father. I'm going to the police. I'm confessing to everything. Racketeering, extortion, all of it. And I'm dissolving the organization, liquidating all assets. Mr. Park looked back at Sarah. This woman taught me more in 4 bullets than I learned in 50 years. She taught me that there are things worth more than money or power. Things like sacrifice, like love, like doing what's right even when it costs you everything. You'll go to prison. I know, and it's the freest I've ever felt. Mr. Park touched Sarah's hand briefly. Before I do, I'm going to make sure she's taken care of. All her medical bills paid in full. When she recovers, she'll have an apartment, a trust fund, everything she needs to rebuild her life. It's the least I can do for the woman who saved my son. He turned to Jenny. You're her daughter. Jenny nodded, too stunned to speak. You'll never have to worry about money again. Your mother's sacrifice will be honored. I promise you that. Then he walked out, his security detail following. Min-jun stood there, trying to process what had just happened. His father, the man who'd built an empire on violence and greed, was throwing it all away because a homeless woman had shown him what real strength looked like. Sarah had saved more than just Min-jun's life tonight. She'd saved his father's soul. Min-jun and Jenny kept vigil at Sarah's bedside for the next 48 hours. They talked about Sarah, sharing stories. Jenny told him about growing up with a mother who worked too hard but always made time for school plays and birthday parties. Min-jun told her about the woman who'd sat with him behind a convenience store and made him feel human. She never told me about you, Jenny said. In all our conversations, she never mentioned you once. She was probably embarrassed. Rich kid slumming with a homeless woman. No, Jenny shook her head. She was protecting you, that's what she does. She protects people even when it costs her everything. On the second day, Sarah's condition started to improve. Her vitals stabilized. The doctors reduced her sedation. And on the third day, her eyes opened. Mom, Jenny grabbed her hand. Mom, can you hear me? Sarah's eyes were unfocused at first, confused. Then they landed on Jenny's face, and tears started rolling down her cheeks. Jenny, the word was barely a whisper, raw from the ventilator tube they'd removed that morning. I'm here, Mom, I'm right here. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry I made you wait. Don't be sorry, never be sorry, I love you so much. They cried together, mother and daughter, 3 years of separation dissolving in those tears. Min-jun stepped back, giving them privacy, but Sarah's eyes found him. You're okay, she whispered. Because of you. Good, that's good. Her eyes started to close again, exhaustion taking over. Rest, Mom. I'll be here when you wake up, I promise. Sarah smiled just a little and drifted back to sleep. The next few weeks were hard. Sarah developed an infection that nearly killed her. She had to go back into surgery twice more. The rehabilitation was brutal, relearning how to use her damaged shoulder, dealing with the chronic pain that the doctors said would probably never fully go away. But Jenny was there every day, and Min-jun came when he could, between music classes and rehearsals. Sarah's room filled with flowers from people she'd never met, strangers who'd heard her story and wanted to show their appreciation. Mr. Park kept his word. He confessed everything to the police and was sentenced to 15 years. But before he went to prison, he set up a trust fund that ensured Sarah would never be homeless again. He bought her a small apartment in a quiet neighborhood. He donated the rest of his fortune to homeless shelters across Korea. At his sentencing, the judge asked if he had anything to say. "I've committed countless crimes," Mr. Park said. "But 3 weeks ago, I witnessed the greatest act of humanity I've ever seen. A woman with nothing gave everything to save my son. And in doing so, she saved me too. I only wish I'd met her sooner." 6 months after the shooting, Sarah was well enough to leave the hospital. She moved into her new apartment with Jenny's help. It wasn't much, just a small 1-bedroom in an older building, but it was hers. Really hers, not charity, not temporary. Home. That same week, Min-jun had his first major performance at Seoul Music Academy. Sarah and Jenny sat in the front row, and when Min-jun took the stage, he was nervous in a way he'd never been nervous before. "This piece is called 4 Bullets," he announced to the crowd. "It's dedicated to Sarah Chen, the woman who taught me that one act of selfless love is worth more than a lifetime of power." He began to play, and the melody was heartbreaking and beautiful at the same time. Sarah recognized parts of it, the lullaby she'd hummed that last night, transformed into something new. The audience was silent, mesmerized. As the music swelled, Sarah found herself thinking about the past 3 years. The pain, the loss, the shame, but also the unexpected moments of grace. Mr. Choi sharing his wisdom, Min-jun sharing his ramyun, Jenny's message on Facebook, the chance to be something more than her failures. She looked down at her scarred hands, still not quite used to the way her left shoulder wouldn't move properly. 4 bullets had changed her life, but not in the way you'd think. They hadn't broken her. They'd reminded her that she was still capable of extraordinary things, that even at her lowest, she still had something to give. When the piece ended, the audience erupted in applause. Min-jun came down from the stage and hugged Sarah, both of them crying. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for everything. You don't owe me anything." "Yes, I do. I owe you my life. And I'm going to spend it making beautiful things the way you taught me to." After the concert, they went out for dinner, the 3 of them. Sarah, Jenny, and Min-jun. They talked and laughed, and for the first time in years, Sarah felt like she belonged somewhere, like she had a family again. "What are you going to do now?" Jenny asked her mother. "I'm going to work at a homeless shelter," Sarah said. "Mr. Park's foundation is opening a new one downtown, and they offered me a job. Not charity, a real job, using my business experience to help manage the operations." "That's perfect, Mom. And maybe," Sarah hesitated, "maybe I'll go back to school, finish my business degree. I always regretted not completing it." "You can do anything," Min-jun said. "You took 4 bullets and survived. Everything else is easy after that." They raised their glasses in a toast, to second chances, to new beginnings, to the strange ways that life can fall apart and come back together in patterns you never expected. Sarah went to work at the shelter the following month. It was hard, seeing people who reminded her of her own time on the streets, but it was also healing. She could help them in ways others couldn't because she'd been where they were. She understood the shame, the fear, the desperate need to hold onto dignity when you had nothing else. She started a program connecting homeless people with job training. She convinced businesses to give people a second chance. She became a voice for those who had no voice. Jenny graduated from university and got a job at a marketing firm. She moved in with her boyfriend, but she came to visit Sarah twice a week. They were rebuilding what they'd lost, slowly, brick by brick. Min-jun became one of the most promising students at the music academy. He performed at charity concerts, always donating the proceeds to homeless shelters. He never forgot where he came from, or who had given him the courage to choose his own path. And sometimes, on quiet evenings, the 3 of them would meet at that same GS25 where it all began. They'd buy instant ramyun and sit on the curb, talking about everything and nothing, just like Sarah and Min-jun used to do. "Do you ever regret it?" Min-jun asked one night, "taking those bullets?" Sarah thought about it. She thought about the chronic pain that woke her up some mornings, the limited mobility in her shoulder, the scars that covered her chest. But then she thought about Jenny sitting beside her, alive and well and happy. She thought about Min-jun pursuing his dreams instead of becoming his father. She thought about all the people she'd helped at the shelter, the lives she'd touched. "No," she said finally, "I don't regret it, because look at what came from it. Look at all of us. We're all better than we were." "You're better," Jenny said, squeezing her hand. "You're a hero, Mom." "I'm not a hero. I just did what anyone would do." "No," Min-jun said quietly. "You did what almost no one would do. You gave everything when you had nothing left to give. That's the definition of a hero." Sarah smiled and looked up at the Seoul night sky. The same sky she'd looked at when she was homeless, wondering if she'd ever see her daughter again. The same sky she'd looked at when she was lying on the pavement, bleeding out, wondering if this was the end. But it wasn't the end, it was a beginning. Sometimes the worst moments of our lives crack us open in ways that let the light in. Sometimes losing everything teaches us what really matters. Sometimes sacrifice isn't about dying for something. It's about living for something bigger than yourself. Sarah Chen had learned all of that, and she taught it to others in the process. As they sat there eating cheap ramyun under the Seoul sky, Sarah felt something she hadn't felt in years. She felt peace. Not happiness exactly, though there was that too, but peace, the kind that comes from knowing you've lived according to your values, that you've made choices you can live with, that you've loved people and been loved in return. 4 bullets had bought her that peace. 4 bullets and a choice made in a split second on a rainy night. It was a choice she'd make again. Every single time. If you've made it this far in Sarah's story, thank you for taking this journey with us. Stories like this remind us that heroism isn't about capes or superpowers. It's about ordinary people making extraordinary choices. If Sarah's story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories of courage and redemption. Drop a comment below and tell us, what would you sacrifice for a stranger? Your answer might surprise you. And remember, in a world that often feels dark, we all have the power to be someone's light. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.